Morning guys, Mark Ferrasci with ProTech Dog Training. I wanted to kind of do a follow-up from last night's live video stream that we did with my two guests, Leah Genduso and Ted Bellmeyer. We went over a lot of different topics, and I'm not sure that we really got into specifics as far as some of those topics. So, reactivity, we mentioned that was basically fear-based, and it's the dog trying to drive something away from him that he may not, or she may not want them near, and that reactivity is usually manifested by lunging and showing a lot of aggression at the end of the leash. It's one of the most common problems we have. People have it all the time. The dog starts lighting up and going off on things. They don't understand how to handle that and deal with it. So reactivity is done with a whole training program. Usually if I have a dog come in and I see that they're reactive and we've got to try to solve this problem, I'll get my behaviors going at home, get a heel, sit down, stay. My basic, mainly heel, and then automatic sit and a good flow for what the dog should be doing. And then once I get that behavior at home in my neutral lab, then I will go out in public and I will start trying to have the dog have some kind of stimulation that's going to have him going off, okay, so I can correct the problem. And I call it floating the bubble. So I'll take my bubble of my space with my dog around me, and I'll start going towards the dog in the park or whatever, and I'll see where that threshold's at. And I'll figure out where that threshold's out, that the dog becomes insecure and starts lighting up and starts becoming reactive. And so then I'll take it and I'll float that bubble and try to stay below that threshold, keeping the dog in positive frame of mind, and then kind of float over that edge of where that threshold is at. Do a right about turn, correct the dog for not being at my side, because now the dog is expected to be at my side, and then give the dog praise, and then work the dog through it very slowly by learning to float my bubble and be able to just barely touch that threshold, whatever it may be, and then slowly but surely we get more and more and more. And the other one is the thing you hear about all the time is basically making the dog feel that you're the one that's in control and you can handle that situation. They don't need to be the one that steps up and does that. That mainly, with that theory, that point of view would be mainly something that's misplaced as far as their relationship, right? You should be the one that's the alpha wolf. You should be the one that's the dominant force within that relationship, okay? We use a lot of words like dominance and alpha wolf and things like that. I don't want you to think that you're trying to crush the dog. You're not. It's a matter of how you carry yourself and what you expect of your animal to denote leadership, okay, in the relationship. And a dog looks for a leader, and that's what it's all about. You heard Ted talking about that last night. So that's one of the most common type of aggression that we have, okay? And it is fear-based, insecurity-based. So if we bring up confidence, we use our agility, we get the dog's confidence level up, we slowly start going into these areas, we'll get the dog through it. I'm probably going to be doing some of this with Zeki at 5 months of age. He's an insecure little young puppy, and he needs to build confidence, and we'll be kind of making sure he doesn't get overloaded in those areas, behavior areas that he's going to have problems with. So that's one of the main ones. Another one would be dominant aggression, okay? What dominant aggression basically is, it usually manifests when you're starting to try to do your obedience, and then you start to put a little pressure on the dog, expecting him to work, and he tells you and blows you off, and he comes back on you, saying in a nutshell that he doesn't respect you as the alpha wolf, okay? So in that regards, we've got to be a little bit stronger in our attitude towards the dog, and make sure that the dog understands that he can't do anything to affect me. And you heard Ted last night. He got creative with a muzzle, right? He had a dog that was being aggressive, and they had a catch pole on him, so that denotes weakness to a dog. Dogs aren't stupid, okay? And if you're using a catch pole, that means that you're afraid of that dog. So what were you doing using that catch pole? I have no idea. He just mentioned that we had a catch pole on the dog for a length of time, and then he realized that it's the dog's head. Put a muzzle on him and let him go ahead and start trying to assert his attitude and aggression. And when he does, you just kind of blow it off, and you're neutral. You just kind of, boom. He's not going out and really fighting the dog. What he's doing is he's basically telling the dog that you can't do anything to me because he has got a muzzle on. The dog is going to exert that energy and exert that behavior, and after a little while, he just kind of gives up because it doesn't work for him, right? It doesn't work for him because he doesn't see any fear out of the person. The person's not freaking out because the bite is happening because the dog's got a muzzle on, and I'm sure that Ted was just neutral in that case. Just kind of, come on, boom. The dog kept giving it to him, until the dog got tired out and realized that wasn't going to be a way of getting what he wanted and having the results that he wanted. And so then they'll kind of go flat, and now you can start building the relationship back up again. A lot of times with this stuff, we have to take the dog down, corrections, whatever it may be, and then we build the relationship back up. In other words, once he understands that he can't win, that you are the alpha wolf, then we build that dog back up, okay? And give a lot of praise, a lot of hot dogs, and we show the dog in a nutshell that we're there as his friend, and there's no animosity coming from us at all. It's kind of a neutral thing. When we dealt with Arrow as an example, we just Ted put a leash on him, and we had him on a table that he was pegged out. He couldn't move towards anything, and I kept working with him and trying to pet him, and anytime he showed aggression, Ted would just kind of lightly stretch him out. There was no real heavy, there was no emotion at all. There was just a stretch out until the dog subsided, and then he released the pressure, and I'd come in again. After a while, the dog started to realize right away that he couldn't do anything to me, and then that behavior just kind of subsided, and now I could start to build up on the positive side, right? So we took it down to a level there's not really abuse. It's just, you just stretch the dog out. He can't do anything. He's kind of stuck, and nothing's working for him. And then as time goes on, you start building that relationship, giving him a lot of praise, and saying, yes, if you're doing the right thing, you're going to get my attention, and we don't need to see that behavior. So we didn't stimulate, because remember, Arrow has a very low threshold, very low stimulation threshold. So that means that the smallest little thing is going to fire him up. So in that case, it was just trying to work with the two of us. But I needed two people. If I didn't have Ted there to be able to handle the leash and be able to kind of stretch him out when he was pegged to that table, I couldn't have been able to do this. So sometimes this stuff takes 2 and 3 people. Like Ted said, he has his employees help, and they use 2 leashes, right? So that's some of the ways that we do things. There's a lot of it is experience, your creativity, and being able to figure out, okay, what can we do to use for this animal, and then your knowledge of dog psychology and understanding what makes a dog tick is a very important thing. And you hear me talking about it all the time, that I always worry about where the dog's head's at in the work, and that's drive state, and knowing and being aware of the fact that you're manipulating drive state. Well, that goes true in anything, even in behaviors such as aggression. Okay, where's that threshold? What's that trigger that makes him go off and start to get aggressive? Okay, then you have to have safety protocols as far as having other people's on the leash, that sort of thing, or using a muzzle, etc. So it's all relative into what we do, but a lot of it's what I call the gut feeling of dog training. We sense it, we feel it, and the experience behind us with time is what gives us the ability to have the right answers. But it's a matter of being able to feel the animal, and that's why when I had a person online gave me a question this morning, and I replied to her, basically, I don't do much of the behavior stuff, and there is no exact answer. Every dog is different. You got to figure out the triggers. What's making this dog tick as far as where his head's at that's making him react. Previous experiences will be that in that bank in his head that have caused him to do this. What worked for him, okay? In other words, he would get aggressive and the owners didn't know how to handle it, and they would show fear. That worked for him or her, okay? So these little imprints in the brain is what we're looking for, these little trigger points, right? We'll have to probe and kind of figure out where the dog's head's at. So that's kind of an overview of what we talked about last night. And there's a lot that goes on. There is no exact in any of this. We have to feel it. We have to have instincts and have skills that come from time. You know, we've been doing this for a while, and we have a good sense of animal behavior and dog psychology, and we can understand the animal, what makes him tick. And we have got a lot in our toolbox as far as knowing, because over the years, I mean, I've been doing this since I was 12, I've got a huge bank of things in my toolbox that I remember from other previous cases that I can use, and maybe in this instance. So I'll go ahead and let you go. I thank you very much for coming by last night. We looked like we got a few hits on it, and there's a lot of views. Hopefully it was informative to you guys, and we'll be in touch. I thank you very much. Mark Ferrasci with ProTech Dog Training. Bye-bye.